There's this voice in your head, and it acts like your bully. It tricks you into believing that it's your friend, that it only wants the best for you. But at the end of the day, that bully is what is holding you back from creating the dream life you have always wanted. And so when you ask yourself, why has nothing changed? Why am I not the best version of myself? Why am I not healing? There's only one answer to that question. Why are you not in control? My lovelies, and welcome back to my channel. If you haven't watched my videos before, then hi, my name is Fleur. This is your space for all things self-development, where we talk about growth, mindset, and becoming the best version of you. So welcome to this space. I do just want to mention something really crazy. I managed to reach 122,000 views on one of my recent YouTube shorts, which is just insane to me, and I want that to be your reminder that anything that you want and anything that you are trying to achieve is possible as long as you believe in yourself. And I believe in you, so let's both believe in you. Anyways, in today's video, I thought that we would talk about how you can drown out your inner critic, because this is something that I have been struggling with for a while. I can't tell you how long I've been struggling when it comes to having an inner critic, and how all I want to do is just drown them out because they don't help you and they don't add any value into your life. I'm going to be splitting this video into 3 parts, where we're going to be talking about why we even have an inner critic in the first place and the difference between self-doubt and self-hatred. Then we will talk about how you can start to heal and take back control of your life. And lastly, we will be talking about how you can push that voice away and keep on progressing with your healing journey once you have healed and once you have learned to take back control. So let's get straight into the video. Now, section 1, we're going to be talking about why we even have an inner critic, because I feel like it's very important that before we get into how we can move on from having one and how we can heal from having one, we discuss why we even have one. The inner critic usually tends to show up at some point in our life where we have learned that being hard on ourselves or being cruel to ourselves has kept us safe. And when we have learned to treat ourselves in that manner, it becomes familiar to us to be speaking to ourselves in that specific way. Maybe that really harsh negative voice kept us from making mistakes. Maybe it was a way to try and live up to those impossible standards that you set for yourself. Or maybe you picked up those harsh voices and that inner critic because of the things that other people were saying about you, whether it be people that were meant to be your friends or your family members or just people around you in general. Those comments unfortunately become our own thoughts when we take them as truth, and we eventually end up tricking ourselves into believing that we were already thinking those things about ourselves in the first place, when in reality the fact that you don't like your nose, or the fact that you don't like your personality, or the fact that you think you're too loud has only come from what other people have said about you and not what you have ever believed about yourself to begin with. But the problem here is that the critic doesn't stop when you're already doing something good for yourself. I always like to try and compare an inner critic to being like this individual that lives in your head who is paid to drag you down, to take you back to rock bottom. And when you aren't at rock bottom, it simply just isn't being paid to do its job. And obviously we all want to be paid. We all want to do our job well. And so the inner critic will try and trick you into believing that when you do something where you are actually stepping forward and you are actually progressing, it will make you believe that what you're doing is actually falling back, so that you will inevitably then fall back, so that your inner critic is being paid for doing its job that it knows it needs to do, which is to keep you trapped and to hold you down. Even if you know that, for example, you eating when you've been suffering with an eating disorder, which is something that I had been struggling with myself, is something that is good for you and you're nourishing your body, your inner critic will trick you into believing that you are actually taking steps backward by nourishing your body, because it doesn't want you to nourish your body. That's why you have the body dysmorphia there in the first place. And so you have to be very careful, because your inner critic likes to play a game with you. And that is why the difference between self-doubt and self-hatred is very important for you to be able to identify which one you think you are coming at yourself with. Now, when you have self-doubt, maybe you might be telling yourself things like, are you sure you can handle this? Or maybe you should have prepared a little bit more, or maybe we need to try a little bit harder. Like, you'll have self-doubt, but it will be not so critical. You'll have compassion for yourself. You'll have empathy for yourself. But when you hate yourself, when you have that self-hatred, your inner critic will be the one to say, you'll never be good enough. Why even try? You know you're going to fail. There's no point nourishing your body. You know you're only going to hate it when you gain weight. Oh, but you don't like the way that your body looks now, so, there is no win. You will really, and I mean really, come at yourself, and it will feel like you are in a box in your brain and there is this shadow that is just eating you alive and you have no control. That is exactly how it felt like for me. And self-doubt can sometimes keep us careful. It keeps us aware. It allows us to be able to know what it is that we need to do to be able to progress, how to notice the mistakes that we've done and to move on and not make those mistakes again. But self-hatred, that's just bullying yourself. And if you wouldn't bully someone else, why do you bully yourself? If you wouldn't say those horrible things to someone else, or specifically a loved one or a friend, why do you think that it's so okay for you to treat yourself in that manner? And I always try to remind myself of this because you have been with yourself your entire life. There is no one that knows you better than you know you. And so if you can't unconditionally love and accept yourself, how can you possibly believe that anyone else is going to be able to do the same thing? Because then what will end up happening is, because you can't accept yourself, you will try and find faults in all the love that is around you and evidence the way that you think that they actually secretly don't love you when they really do, and they're trying to show you how much they love you. But you don't believe in it because you don't love yourself. And if you don't love yourself, you simply cannot accept love from other people. And so when you decide to listen to your inner critic, when you decide to let your inner critic win, you are allowing it to control your life. It's your car. Why are you sitting in the passenger seat? So now that we understand that, section 2 is where we're going to be talking about how to heal and take back control. Now, here's the good news, because I feel like I've just put all of this information on you and you're probably thinking, well, that's great. Now I just feel like even more of a failure and I've lost hope completely. So thanks for that, Fleur. But I do just want to say that with every struggle that you face in your life, you always become stronger, and you know that. I want you to sit down and think about all the times that you've struggled in your life. Have you been able to get through that? I'm sure the answer will be yes, otherwise you wouldn't even be here watching this video. I'm sure there were times in your life in the past where you didn't even think you would be here today, where you didn't even think that you would live to the next day, and yet here you are, you have survived and you're still here and you're still fighting because you are a survivor. And eventually you will need to realize that you are the one that is the boss, not your inner critic. Because at the end of the day, whose body is it? Is it your body or is it your inner critic's body? It's a very easy answer. It's yours, and yet you're letting your inner critic control it even though it's not their home. And I find that the best thing to do, and the first thing that I will say that you should do, is to separate the voices. You will find there are 2 different voices going on in your head. One of them will be the harsh voice, the inner critic voice, and maybe it won't even be your tone of voice. I always used to notice that my inner critic would have a different voice to mine. It would be so much harsher than mine. It would be brutal, a bit bitchy, to be honest. But my own voice, my true self, that was the one that was mine. It was the one that was filled with compassion. It was the one that wanted the best for me. But unfortunately, it was the quiet voice. It was the voice that I couldn't really hear, because whilst there was someone screaming at me that I was completely worthless, there was a little tiny mouse in the corner of my mind telling me that I should keep going and that I'm a beautiful woman and that I'm this and I'm that, but no one cares. You don't care because that tiny little voice, you can barely hear it in that massive room where all you can hear is how worthless you are and how you are a failure and how you're never going to be able to succeed in life. I mean, if you were to put yourself into a room with about, 8 people who were coming at you and hating you, and then only 2 people who were saying positive things about you, who do you think you would listen to? Unfortunately, as it is with human beings, we will always listen to the negative comments over the positive ones, even if we know that the positive ones are right and the negative ones are wrong, because we care more about how people negatively perceive us instead of how people positively perceive us. And so you need to be able to quieten down that horrible voice that you know that you don't want to be listening to. The next thing that I love to do is to speak to myself in third person. And you might think, well, this is a little bit crazy, but just hear me out. every time your inner critic will come up and it will try and bully you, I want you to act like you are defending yourself, but in third person. So this is going to help you to build that confidence to be able to stand up for yourself. If a loved one was being bullied by someone, you would stand up for them, right? Suddenly, you would have all of this newfound confidence that you never knew you had just so that you could stand up for them. But for some odd reason, we can't do that for ourselves. We will literally let a whole day go by where we will allow ourselves to be treated horribly by ourselves because it's normal, because we think that it's okay for us to speak to us that way, and no one has ever defended us before because no one has been able to hear the thoughts that we're saying to us before. So because no one can hear all the things that you're saying to yourself, they can't step in and say, actually, that's not right. But I'm sure that if any of your loved ones were to hear how you talk to yourself, they would be able to prove you how wrong you are. But unfortunately, they can't. And so you need to be the one that steps in for yourself and defends yourself the way you would for someone else. And so the next time your inner critic says something, I want you to say, leave, and then your name, alone. So for me, I would say, leave Fleur alone, stop bullying her, she's trying her best, she's doing her best, she deserves kindness, she deserves love. I want you to say those things to yourself, and even if you don't believe in them, trust me, I know how that feels. Even if you don't believe in it, you just have to keep saying it. It's so true that if you fake it, you will make it. Sometimes you do generally need to fake kindness to yourself because eventually you will trick your mind into believing that's how you should be treating yourself. We weren't just born and then we believed that it was normal for us to treat ourselves in this negative way. It's a pattern that we have created, and I've always seen it being compared to how there's like paths in your brain, and let's say you were in this field and there wasn't a set path that was made out for you. There was one path that you have walked on for your whole life, and that is the negative path. That is the path where you talk to yourself the way that you currently speak to yourself now. And you've made that path, so it's comfortable for you to take that path because you don't want to create a new path where maybe your legs will be scratched by the grass or you'll get horrible rashes. You don't want to go down that new path. And so you take the easy one, you take the easy route. Even if at the end of the day you feel horrible for taking that path, it's what feels familiar. But you have that choice to create a new path in your brain. And although it's going to be hard to do, although you're going to get those scratches and you're going to feel uncomfortable and it's not going to feel familiar and it's going to feel scary, the more you decide to take that path, the more the grass will go down. And then on the other side, the more the grass will start to grow and you won't feel comfortable to go down that path anymore. You'll realize that you have the choice to make whatever path it is that you want, as long as you are the one to take the first step, because no one else can lead you down that positive route. You have to be the one to do it for yourself. I've always advised people as well that when they're thinking negative thoughts, the best thing that I can say is that you just need to instantly flip them. So if you're telling yourself that you aren't worthy, instantly tell yourself that you are worthy. Or if it's hard for you to be able to believe in that, maybe instead of saying you are worthy, you could just say, I am not unworthy. So you're sort of like flipping it, but not saying it in a positive way either, because then you're tricking your brain into believing it, but then you're also not trying to force yourself into saying all of these really wonderful things to yourself that you know you can't say. But eventually I do want you to get to that point where you do say those things to yourself, and whenever you notice something negative pop up in your brain, you just instantly have to say the other side of it and the positive version of it, so that you can trick yourself into believing that that's how you should be talking to yourself, because it is how you should be talking to yourself. And I always do this, and I find that it always works for me, that whenever my negative critic tends to pop up, I will always say, no, that's not right, and then I will say the opposite. And then lastly, I just want to preface that by doing all of these things that I just said, you are then creating your defense voice, and you are creating the voice that will always be there for you and will step in when your bully tries to trick you. And it's really important that we always have that person that defends us, because when you have someone that defends you, you don't feel so alone anymore. And sometimes that can't be someone else, like I've already said, it has to be you. And so when you have created that defense voice, although at first it might be weak, over time it will grow stronger. And just like when you're standing up to a bully in real life, the more you practice, the less power that bully has over you and the more control you have over the bully. Now, in section 3, we're going to be talking about when the inner critic comes back during your healing journey and how you can fight it off. I will just say that even after you've done a lot of healing, that inner critic is always going to want to creep back in to get its paycheck, because it wants to drag you down, it wants to get paid, it wants to get its money, it wants to do its job, and you have to always fight back. You have to fight back, because if you don't, then you're going to allow yourself to lose the control that you've worked so hard to gain for. But even if this critic decides to pop up again, I don't want you to think that that means that you're falling backwards, because you aren't. Healing is not meant to be linear, and there are going to be times where you're going up and then you're going down and then you're going up and then you're going down, and that's okay. But you need to be able to pick yourself back up again if you fall back down. I want you to think of your inner critic like a shadow. I mean, I've already said that that's how I think about mine, but if you think of your inner critic like a shadow, it becomes a lot easier to be able to understand what I'm just about to say. It's there in the background, in your mind. It's always there in the corner of your room, but it's not running your life anymore. You have so many beautiful things that you've put up in your room. You've got these gorgeous lights and this gorgeous aura, and you feel comfortable in that room. And even though that shadow is still there in the corner, you know how to ignore it. And maybe one day, when you have grown so much as a person and you've progressed so much as a person and you've healed, you'll notice that that shadow will slowly disappear and it won't be in the corner of your room anymore. But that doesn't mean that it won't come back. And the point of healing is that you learn how to deal with it if it does come back, not how to ignore it. Self-development is about understanding why we feel traumatized and triggered by the things that we do, so that if it happens again, we know what to do next time. It doesn't mean ignoring it and pretending like it never happened and moving on and just progressing and thinking everything is rainbows and unicorns. That's not how it works. Self-development, it's not easy. As I always say, if it was, then everyone would be doing it, but everyone is not doing it. And so you need to understand that even though that shadow might be in the corner of your room, you still have that ultimate control. And when it decides to speak up, when you think that everything is going well and then suddenly that shadow starts to spark, you have a choice. Instead of believing it, you can pause and say to yourself, that's the bully talking, not me. It's the shadow in my room, and I have the ability to say, you know what, be quiet. It's my life, I'm the one in control. And you bring in your strong voice, that defense voice that we were talking about, and you remind yourself of that. You remind yourself that at the end of the day, it's your life. But even if there are moments where you don't defend yourself and you find yourself falling back into that box that you put yourself in at the start, I want you to understand that there is always a way out. And even though you are healing, you might get to a point in your life, like I did with my life, where you will think that you are invincible, when you think that you've already done all the work and there's no more work to be done. But you are human, and there are going to be things that happen in your life that are going to test you and that are going to try and drag you back down. But you have to be strong, and you have to fight, and you have to survive, because we are survivors and that's what we do. And I believe in you. I truly believe that when anything is thrown in your path, that when any obstacles are thrown in your path, that you know what to do to get out of that. And so you have to believe in that. Please believe in that. I believe in that. I believe that even though you feel weak right now, that there is a spirit in you that is so strong and that wants you to survive, that wants you to stay strong. Healing isn't about never hearing the critic again. It's just about recognizing it and then defending yourself and carrying on with your journey anyway, progressing anyway, and understanding that life isn't linear. Healing isn't linear, but you are doing enough, and every day, every morning, every waking second that you decide to keep on going is another day where you take back control. If this video resonated with you, then please let me know in the comments what it is that you learned today that you will take away from this video. And if you enjoyed this video, then please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more content like this. I post videos every single Sunday at 12 p.m. and I will see you next Sunday. Bye bye, my lovelies. Because we care more about how people negatively perceive us, how people negatively perceive us, how people negatively perceive us, how people negatively perceive us instead of positively perceive us. Perceive. because we care more about how people negatively perceive us. Why can't I say that word?